In this session, we are going to talk about how notifications, monitoring, and logging work in Nerdio for Azure. Things like setting backup alerts, how to change notifications in the Nerdio admin portal, and logging all relevant actions in the product. Enjoy the session.
There are a set of different notifications that you can configure. All of these get delivered via email to the various recipients. And the recipients include partner admins. And these people are basically the ones that are members of the partner, the MSP that has provisioned this account. So you'll notice this account is 5009 Moreheart Inc. But if you see, who's actually listed here, these are the various people at the partner admin level that are going to get notifications. You can see that that is turned off by default. It can be easily turned on just like that. It also can be configured to go, the notifications can go to the account IT admin. These would be people within the account itself. So you can see this is chatco at 5009.nerdio.net. And finally, you can also add email addresses into this field, just kind of freehand if you have somebody who doesn't fall into one of these two categories. All right, so as far as what the notifications are, so they're broken into categories. There is user operations. So anything that you would do on the user screen right here, whether it's a new user addition, deletion, archival, password reset, or anything like that, if you enable this notification, it's going to send an email to whoever is selected. So in this case, it would be these 11 people, this one IT admin, and also this person right here, or you can customize it any way you want. So this is user operations. There is a similar type of an alert that can go out for server operations. So things like server restart, shutdown, reset, power off, destroy, add server, add disk, change disk space, change the CPU, memory, disk size, etc. So anything that's done on the server screen would be sent as a notification. Finally, there is also a set of notifications for network operations. These include VPN status changes. So if we go onto the VPN screen, which is under networking, you have the VPN tunnel, and it can have various states. It can be either connected or disconnected or connecting. And then anytime the status changes, if that notification that you just saw on the previous screen is turned on, that notification will be triggered via email. So this is useful for monitoring VPN connectivity. Now, this is not real time. There is somewhat of a lag of when these notifications are evaluated. Okay, so that's the networking notification. When does this come up? So imagine you have a scenario where you have an office, customer's office that has multiple internet lines, and they have a SonicWall or some other firewall that can seamlessly fail over between the two. So if you have a SonicWall to SonicWall VPN tunnel, you can establish the VPN connections to use aggressive mode and be able to connect from the customer's LAN over either one of the WAN connections that they may have. The challenge in Azure is that the only type of VPN that's supported is main mode, which means that you must have a static IP address of the other location that it's coming from. So in this case, it's 1.2.3.4. If your VPN connection is coming from a different address, this tunnel will not come up. And there really isn't an easy way to set up multiple tunnels to be able to point at the same connection, at the same physical location. So the way you can work around this is by sending a notification that will email the help desk anytime the VPN goes down. And remember, the VPN is used for printing and scanning. It's not used for desktop connectivity because that goes over the RD gateway through the public internet. But if the VPN goes down, a notification will go out within a certain period of time at the next audit interval of the connection. You can then come into this screen, edit this VPN connection right here, and then change the IP address to the IP of the second WAN interface on the client's network, and then click save. And this is, it's a manual process, but it will bring the VPN connection up just by making this change. So again, on the client end, you have two WAN connections. SonicWall can fail, or whatever firewall is can fail between the two seamlessly, depending on which one is active, which one is down. And then you can modify the Azure VPN to point at the correct one, depending on which one is available, and be notified of the status change through this notification right here. The next category of notifications is backup alerts. So this is for things like if you go in and you remove a server from backup. So let's go ahead and open a backup in another tab. So if you remove a server, if you disable backup completely, or if backup fails on any one server, it's going to trigger a notification. So again, very helpful in just monitoring the status of the backup. So any user actions that administrator would take from this backup screen, as well as any failures in the backup process. Okay, so let's take a look here. So you basically, if I were to go in and turn this off, or if I were to go in and remove this server from backup, then the notification would be sent to everybody that you saw on the previous screen. Okay. Next, we already went through these ones, so let's just turn them off for now because we don't need to be getting this many. Okay, good. And then finally, you have a set of notifications that get triggered when changes get made in the NAP. So this is NAP security notifications will be sent to all users that are allowed to log into NAP. And the two options are send an email alert when a NAP user is added, and send an email alert when there is a log, when there's a login to the NAP using my username. So if you enable this, then every time I log in as a particular user into this environment, I will get notification. This is just, for confirmation in case an account gets compromised. You will get an email notification that someone else logged in. If that wasn't you, that will obviously alert you that something is going on. So those are NAP specific notifications. Okay, so that pretty much covers notifications. There is also logging that I think we went over in the previous session, but I'll mention it briefly. There's a log for provisioning tasks for things like actually the provisioning of the environment initially, or maybe doing certain environment upgrades, like from Professional Edition to Enterprise Edition, things like that. There is desktop logins, and desktop logins basically show you which users logged into which RDS session hosts or VDI desktops. You can filter them by date, as you saw just now, by name, and by the machine they logged into. So if I only want to see people who logged into the VM that has A00000D, then it will obviously filter it only to the VMs that have a D in the name. Okay, so really handy if you want to see when the last time a user logged in. Now with this, the way this information is retrieved is it's actually coming from the SMS passcode database that tracks the login from any VDI or RDS sessions. When you get the Windows login prompt, you type in the password, it records an entry in that database. The NAP then pulls the information out of that database. It presents it here. That information gets captured when a user logs in, either initially when there is not an active session, or even if a user reconnects to a disconnected session, because they will re-authenticate themselves and it will go through kind of a login process where two-factor will be enforced if that's enabled for the user account. That user login attempt will be reflected here. So if you look at these attempts, this doesn't mean that Angie Accounting logged into the desktop without being logged in first. It could be that Angie went for lunch and then came back and reconnected and typed in the password. That will also be logged as a login attempt. Okay, so it's both reconnects and fresh logins that are logged here. And then finally, the biggest login area is the management tasks. Under management tasks, you have lots of ways to filter this view. There's obviously a date range filter. There is a free text search filter. So if I want to, look for anything that's all my sync AD tasks, there we go. I think it searches on the description of the task, which is why the previous one didn't match. But there, this is a free text search field. We also have a category. Various tasks have different categories. If I want to see all server operations, I can do this, and then it will just filter it down to things that happen with servers. If I want to see user operations, I can do it this way. And then you can also filter by status. So remember, pending just means the task hasn't been picked up yet. It's waiting to be executed. It could be there's something else running in front of it before it gets picked up. In progress means it's currently running. Complete means it's done. And then error means it completed with some sort of an error. When there is an error, there is a useful log over here that you can click on that will show you if there are any logs that were reported by the system that would explain what the error is. Sometimes you get no log because maybe it timed out or something, but in most cases you'll get something that tells you what happened. In this case, the computer must have been off or something like that, which is why it couldn't connect to it. So those are the logs. And one final thing I want to remind you is that there is a little settings bar, gear at the top right. When you click on the settings gear, you can enable automated tasks. So even though let's clear our filters, so you can see, the last task that ran was 3:10, which is a few minutes ago, when we were changing notifications. You can see it was me who did that. You can see exactly what was changed, etc. So that's nice and helpful, but there aren't too many other tasks today. If I go ahead and I unhide these automated tasks by setting them to yes, you'll see that in addition to all of the stuff that I've been doing, there are tasks that don't have a username listed, which means they're automated by the system. And these are the various things that happen on a scheduled interval behind the scenes, like updating performance monitoring data, submitting the auto scale schedule to Azure Automation, refreshing security settings, updating the security score. So there's updating things like the AD cache, right? So right there. So all types of background tasks are also logged. So this is a good gear and setting to remember if you're trying to investigate why a particular task may be sitting in pending state. It could be that there's something that it depends on that's currently running, and that task that's running may actually be an automated background task. So for example, if you're making a change to a user account, and at the same time there is a cache update that's running and is in progress, then that user account update is going to sit in pending until that cache update is complete. So to investigate that, you would come in here and set this to on. When you set it to on, every time you refresh, you navigate away from the screen and you come back, it actually gets automatically reset to off. So remember that this is a per view type of a setting. Every time you navigate away, it changes back to off.